Support your Hobbit hobby.
Welcome Strategy Battle Gamers to another GBHL YouTube channel video. You're here with James.
And Jamie, and we're finally going to get round to discussing the Desolation of Smaug.
The movie!
The movie!
Not the movie.
The week.
Originally we were going to do this as part of our Desolation December.
December.
Suggested by Alistair King. What was it?
Yeah, it's just asking, but we don't have enough content to do the
We didn't
whole
have
of
enough.
December. We also started midway through.
We did start midway through as well.
Yeah. Hopefully, well, firstly, apologies for this video taking so long to get out, but hopefully you all had a chance to see it now, so there will be spoilers going in from here.
Yeah, there are many reasons. So we were going to do the review straight
after seeing it.
Straight after seeing it, and we literally got to the first viewing
Yeah.
in Manchester. Was it?
Came out just exhausted and not in the right frame of mind to do.
Which we will discuss. We went away, we had a chat with it ourselves, we thought, right, we need to go and see it a second time before we do this. And then, of course, we've had Christmas and everything that's gone on over there, and we've continued to try and fit in all of this other content, and this has kind of been shuffled down the pile a little bit, which is a shame, but it's here now, and as Jamie says, hopefully it's giving you guys a chance to see it, so there won't be any spoilers. Okay, now, I think the first thing to note is, we went in early in the morning.
Yep.
Was it lunchtime?
We watched part one.
Extended version, which I haven't seen.
Didn't see.
Which I thought was really good.
Really good. Then we went to see the sort of first show it was in 2D. Was it 3D?
We went to watch it in 3D because that was the first show.
The first show, yeah. We watched it in 3D, not high frame rates, just 3D.
And we walked in to a cinema that felt like Smaug was in there.
Yeah, it was
boiling hot.
It was so warm. I mean, obviously, what I think is that they would, having worked in the cinema, is that they will have started the aircon up during the day, and then when they get their peak trade in, sort of like 4, 5, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, it will be nice and cold and ready for them to go into.
See, I had the other thing. I thought that they put the heating on when they all go in first thing in the morning to try and warm it up because usually it get cold overnight. Because you don't want to be cold watching a movie.
No, auditoriums, the general consensus is that you want it to be just a little bit chilled. That's how the Odeon work, and that's how we were always doing.
We certainly were not.
We were not cold.
We were sweating.
If I was working, I'd be like, boss, it's far too warm in here. People are going to start complaining. Because if you're sat in a room for 3 hours, if not even longer, in a very warm temperature, you get fidgety. You start, to sweat, obviously, and you can't really concentrate on the film. Yeah,
you want to be comfortable, don't you? Yeah. And I wouldn't say that we were wrong, but it was very warm. We did have patches.
Towards the end of the film, I was getting very sort of, I would say fidgety again, but sort of just quite anxious for it to be over almost, because I was like warm, ran out of drink, but I don't want to leave, so I don't want to miss anything, and it's just like. Just getting really sort of wound up.
I think there was a couple of reasons for this as well, which we'll come on to. There might be more than one reasons why you were agitated, as I were, and maybe the heat contributed towards that. We didn't necessarily feel comfortable.
No.
We did make a friend when we went in, didn't we? Yeah. The cinema was quiet. There was only a couple of people in there.
Obviously, it was Friday daytime, not out of school season, so we got there and it was me, you,
a couple in front, some kids to the left.
Yeah, kids with a parent to the left. And this one guy behind us.
Who we decided to talk to, because we decided to try and rope him in.
Get him subscribed. So if you're subscribed and you're watching, thanks for joining us.
Yep.
Although he didn't seem too keen on wargaming, so...
No, he seemed much more keen on getting tattoos of Tolkien stuff.
Yeah, so he had Sauron's eye on his arm here, but decided it was a bit too phallic, so had to get the tower. Just edit this out, yeah. Just beat me. Just go.
Just put all those random cats and dog noises on.
He got some sound bites. Had the tower put on, and he had the Witch King Rangmar at the top, didn't he?
He had the Witch King there, and he had something else. Did he have the writing somewhere? And what did he have on his leg?
I can't remember what he had on his leg.
But covered in Lord of the Rings tattoos. Yeah. Which he definitely wanted to be there.
Yeah.
He definitely wanted to be there. So we were also moving.
He travelled quite a way as well, didn't he?
I think he come up from Macclesfield. which isn't well. It's about a 40-minute drive from Stockport, but I think he got the train, which is a bit quicker. So it is a fair way. But he was obviously keen to be one of the first to see it, just as we were.
Yeah.
We were. And I think the best way of us doing this is probably to give our overall opinion first, which is an alternative way of doing something, and then go through why. That might be easier.
Yeah.
So we came out of the cinema and we looked at each other.
Bit nervous to say it first, but I just...
That was the question.
Just went. So
what
what do you think?
What do you think about that?
Bit let down, really.
We weren't impressed. Some of
No.
you might be surprised because there's been a lot of great feedback.
Yeah.
We weren't impressed.
No. Not on the first viewing, at least.
No, and we'll get to that. We weren't impressed, and we think there are a number of reasons for this. I mean, one, we put a lot of pressure on going to this because we wanted to do the review
straight after,
We've been looking forward to it for so long, but then again, so many of you who did like it have as well and thought it was really good.
I think not we, but us wargamers, we've been spoilt a little bit by seeing things in the Desolation of Smaug rulebook, so we sort of knew what to expect was going to be happening in the film. So we've seen the Beorn model, so Beorn's going to be in it, or Thrain the Broken model's out, so Thrain's going to be in it, and then you kind of wait through the film waiting to see these characters in these moments, and obviously Thrain never turned up in the theatrical cut. Beorn's in it for all of 5 minutes, if that really, on screen, and just lots of other things like Tauriel. How does she fit into it? Oh, she comes in as a love interest. And there's just lots of things.
I think the main reason why we came out like that was because, I mean, it's interesting because we were keen to avoid this, and it's why what we were originally going to do is we were going to watch it, and then we were maybe going to try and watch it again, straight away, and we wanted to enjoy it the first time, and
be critical,
then be critical the next. And unfortunately, I think what happened was that
we both slipped into this mindset of being critical the first time, and being overly critical.
Being very critical the next time. Now there were some things in the movie which even the second time I watched it the second time. We didn't watch it together. No. I watched it later on that day. I took my fiance, committed.
I went on the Orange Wednesdays to Odeon.
Good call. Yeah. I went with Jane, and this time we didn't watch it in 3D. I have to say I actually thought the 3D was alright. I'm not usually good with 3D. It makes me blurry, but it hurts my head, gives me a bit of a headache. But I actually enjoyed it in 3D. I didn't enjoy the movie, but I didn't mind it in 3D. And then I watched it 2D with Jane later. She gets bad migraines from 3D as well, and I have to say the second time I watched it, enjoyed it much more. Yeah. Same for you as well.
Yes, yeah. When I watched it the second time, I think I also saw it in 2D because the 3D show was like an hour later. It just, like, yes, I knew what was going to happen. Besides some bits of it, I just enjoyed it much more because I could just literally sit back and enjoy being back in Middle Earth.
Yeah, and I'd be the same. And I think the second time I watched it, it was easier to identify and sort of almost crop the bits that I didn't like away from the bits that I was enjoying. Whereas the first time, it kind of all meant that it was all blurred, and I got more of a negative feeling, especially with how it ended. Yeah. So we'll start off at the beginning. So it starts off.
Beorn.
It starts off Gandalf meeting Thorin.
Oh, Gandalf meeting Thorin, that's a great scene.
Really good scene.
Yeah.
Really good scene. Where they meet, and Gandalf is obviously there on purpose.
Yeah.
He's encouraging him to
Thorin to take back Erebor.
And obviously he wants to do this because he wants to prevent Sauron
from awakening Smaug.
And then
turning him.
Becoming an alliance, which would be obviously devastating. That's why he wants to do it. And then it goes to Bilbo, sort of looking out for where Azog is because they're still being chased, and goes into the whole Beorn.
Yeah, so you straight up see Beorn as a bear. He chases them to their house, so you ignore the books bit where they go in 2 by 2 in their naming couplets and say, Feely and Keely at your service, Dori Nori at your service, Oin and Gloin, and so on. They just run into the house, and we meet Beorn as a bear trying to smash in to get him. Which I really like that chapter in the book, but I can see why PJ has sort of trimmed it down. I reckon there'll be a lot more in the extended edition of seeing Beorn, but I can see why he sort of cut out, because I think that scene would take quite a lot of sort of acting time, as it were, to get done. So
it's a shame, I think, because you do lose some of
the character, and you lose Beorn a little bit. But just like cutting out Tom Bombadil, it's not necessary to the story for them to enter the house that way. No. They just need to get them in there, get them safe, have a nice rest, get refreshed, and then move them to the Mirkwood.
I get the feeling that, and this is a spoiler alert, I get the feeling that if Beorn wasn't such an important character in the next movie, for what happens,
they could have just cut
they would have just cut it out completely. And it was almost like it was an inconvenience that Beorn had to be in this point. And so, as such, until we see an extended edition, it's not developed enough. Now, one thing that I would like to comment on is that I remember when the first leaked pictures of the character...
He's there with his axe, isn't he?
Yeah, it kind of looks like... We talked about this before in a video. It looked like David Bowie in... in... Labyrinth. Have you seen it yet?
No. I just remember that video.
And lots of people weren't too happy with how he looked. I thought in a movie, and we've said the same about the model and the picture, I think he looks great.
It looks great. He looks good.
He looks really, really good in bear form and man form. Yeah. One thing I was a little bit... There's that moment, isn't there, where Azog, they want to go after the company, and they see the bear patrolling. That could have been a really good sort of opportunity, maybe, to have a form of conflict.
Yes, yeah. Between Azog and... You can see...
A slight skirmish, whereas maybe some of his troops get
mauled.
Mauled and stuff. Yeah. Might have made a bit more...
Yeah. It might have brought Beorn into the film a little bit more. Well, that could be in the extended cut.
It could be. Because it comes down to the beast is on patrol or something.
Yeah, because that can easily be done through CGI.
Yeah.
So that could be in the cut.
Yeah, we think that we're going to see a lot more Beorn in the extended, so we were disappointed, but we can kind of see, we were disappointed we didn't get to see more.
Yeah.
See more of that. And then they go on into the woods.
They go the woods, the spiders. The spider scenes are brilliant. They've done very well. There's not so much of Bilbo. Oops. Bilbo dancing around saying, "That's a cop, can't catch me." All that stuff.
But the spiders are done phenomenally.
Spiders done brilliantly. When Bilbo puts the ring on, and you can suddenly understand their spider language. That sort of gets that across really well. That these spiders are evil, and that's why he can sort of understand them, because he's got the ring.
But it also gives that moment. I know a lot of people weren't too sure about it, but when he drops the ring,
it's like, where is it?
And it shows it that the power that it can have.
Just this one little baby spider is just like crawling around.
It looks like some kind of weird centipede kind.
When I watched it the second time, I saw it as I wasn't sure the first time it looked like some kind of little crab or something.
Yeah,
but the second time I think maybe it was
lava of some kind.
Yes, yeah. And it was like clicking around near the ring, and you see Bilbo sort of... You see that thing with the Smeagol has, that...
Yeah.
And just wanting that ring more than anything else.
And he says, "It's mine."
Yeah, it's mine.
Which is really good.
Yeah.
A little bit chilling. I actually like that. I know some people didn't like that, but I like that. I like that it was then the movie was able to demonstrate that it was taking a hold of him in a way early on and what it could do. The flies and spiders scene was...
very good.
Very, very, very well done. Yeah. So then we get to meet the elves.
Yeah. Now, I think just through the entire film, PJ's got this obsession with having Legolas just surf on everyone and everything, and it really detracts from the fantasy. Well, it makes it fantasy, yes, but it really detracts from Legolas' character when he's like, how does he enter? He rides on a spider. He's like, whoa, I'm on a spider, shoot it, slide down a tree on its back, and enters. But there are some really cool bits.
There are some cool bits, yeah. It's good to meet the elves, and we get to meet the new invented character, Tauriel, who kind of, fits in nicely, almost. Now, the second time that I watched the movie, I really enjoyed the whole movie, up until the bit where being captured, and... is it Feely or Keely? Is it Feely?
No, it's Keely, because they go Feely and Keely at your service, and it's the blonde one on the left. That's how I remember them.
So
because it's Keely. Keely's
who's the one? Who's the one with the love interest?
Keely.
Right. Okay. So Keely is in the cell, and then there's this scene.
It's a roast
between Tauriel and Keely. The reason why they've done this is so that it gives a reason. For other things to happen, like Tauriel going to rescue them, and almost sort of getting the elves to be in Lake Town and stuff like that. And they kind of get this kind of love interest going on. There's a couple of really sort of cheesy bits, like where he's like,
is sort of a staple of filmmaking that most films have some form of love interest because it appeals to that sort of, well, the ladies who watch the film. It's that sort of genre, demographic that they're going after there.
But I thought it was a big shame because I thought it missed an opportunity to show a strong female character who's doing things not because of a potential love interest,
but because she feels for the world and wants to make a difference.
which would make her a much better character, and I could see why she'd be there.
She almost is that as well, when she, are you not part of this world? Which is very sort of akin to Arwen saying it.
Yeah.
Tauriel, in my opinion, is Arwen Mark II. That she's this elf who can heal, who can kick ass and glows bright white when she's healing people, and yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I can see why they've. I can see why they brought her in. I just thought it was really unnecessary to have the kind of clunky, clumsy.
That bit with the runestone, and I've seen the moon when it's red, and it's gorgeous, Tauriel. You love it. And she's like, clearly, you're so sentimental. You didn't realise dwarves could be like this. And you're like, oh, shut up.
I know.
It's not needed.
This is The Hobbit, not Twilight.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
right.
The wrong movie for that. So, and it was at that point that I felt that some parts of the movie started to be a little bit, because it's not long after that we then see the changeover of
Bolg to Azog, which some people think that it was done well, that it introduces Bolg in a good way, but we think it was very sloppy. It's like Bolg rides in, the master's calling you. Azog goes,
goes up like he's squaring up.
Yeah, do you still want to taste dwarf blood? Yeah, great. You're the bad guy now. See ya.
Yeah, very clumsy.
It's just,
and I think they've done it because they want Azog to be down the line, one of the main sort of antagonists, don't they?
Yeah.
But he still can be. He can still be main antagonist chasing Thorin's company. It kind of then takes away, I find, from the chase a little bit, that we've got this new character, Bolg, who hasn't been developed really.
At all.
Looks great.
Looks good.
Looks good.
You can see the connection between Azog and Bolg, because they're all meant to be father and son, aren't they, really?
They're meant to be in the book, yeah.
But I don't think we're going to have that. I think we're just going to have the sort of like the camaraderie ship.
Yeah. And I thought it took away from the chase. Although, one of the best bits of the movie, although it is completely ridiculous...
Completely wrong to the book as well. You talking about the barrel scene?
The barrel scene.
Barrel scene had me in stitches. Seeing Bomber...
He was cracking up.
I was cracking up. I mean, it is very childish to see sort of the fat dwarf bouncing around on his barrel, squashing orcs.
Yeah.
As Legolas...
Swords pop out the side and he starts spinning around.
Sword and an axe and he just spins back into another barrel. Very childish.
Entertaining.
And then again, in that scene, if you watch Legolas, which I did the second time, I think he surfs on about 2 orcs.
Just 2?
Just 2.
Just 2?
Just
sure?
2, yeah. I think don't quote me on that. And then obviously running across Dwarf's head, which Dwarling I can't see ever standing for. You just go get off.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was...
So it's also just like, ow!
It was almost like the 101 worst ways to die for an orc. That's what it's like. That's what it's like. It was almost like, right, because there were some very cool orc deaths in this. They're very creative, but it's almost like that's where a lot of the effort has gone.
Yeah.
And what is the most creative, crazy way of making these orcs die?
Arrow through the head, comes out this side, orc runs into it, sort of thing.
Yeah. It's like in the first one, you stab with an arrow and then use the same arrow to do the thing, and then it is all just a little bit, It's like Rafiki versus the hyenas in Lion King, where he does his mad ninja stuff, and then at the end he's like, "Whoopah!"
Yeah.
It's kind of a little bit like that.
It is for the kids, and sort of you got to see that The Hobbit is a kids' film, basically. Yeah.
And it was very entertaining, and really, I thought it was well done actually.
But there also though is the Palace Guard are rubbish. They are the red shirts of the Mirkwood Realm.
Oh my days! They
Like,
get taken out.
Stood there, full armoured, like, so we've guarded this woods for 1 orc. Yeah, dead.
Yeah, they didn't do very well. No. Where was your fight 6 then, guys?
Yeah.
Thranduil wasn't around, I suppose.
Yeah, it's true.
What did you think of Thranduil?
I actually really enjoyed it. You got that sort of I'm going to steal someone else's comment here, but you got that sort of Fëanor feel of an elf, where not all the elves are as gracious as Elrond, and this one is a bit of a douche, to be honest.
Yeah, right. So that's quite true to the books. It was a good job that I watched the extended version because of the whole thing with the white jewels and stuff.
Yes,
I had no idea.
if you've not seen the extended version, at the very beginning, when you're talking about the scenes in Erebor, there's one bit where Thror's showing. Is it Thror? Yeah, Thror.
Yeah.
Thror's showing Thranduil this box of pure white. Well, they call it the gems of the stars or something. Starlight. Yeah. And Thranduil's like, "That's my jewels," sort of thing. But he closes it up, takes it away, and takes it as his tribute from the elves. And it's just really sort of that starts the animosity between the two of them.
Yeah, which I'm glad that was cut, really, because you didn't. I thought that them turning up and then walking away was enough
to
demonstrate that. Yeah. So then for it to be brought up in the second movie, I thought it was quite interesting. But then again, it used to be 2 movies.
Yeah. But yeah, Thranduil, very cool character. Fought the Wyverns in the North, which I read into a little bit, and there's some things about it could have been the Battle of Tears or something that he was part of, and.
I love that reading into a lot of the old lore and stuff. It's really interesting. One of the most interesting things about Lord of the Rings isn't necessarily just the Lord of the Rings story, which is great. It's
but reading the world and universe that has been expanded on around it.
Oh, it's just
after the barrel chase.
So after Barrel Chase, they end up downriver, and we get to meet Bard for the first time.
Bard is very cool.
He's a cool dude. Great actor.
Yep.
He did a fantastic job. You, as an audience, you seem to immediately like him.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a great heroic pose at the start, which is one of the latest.
That's the January release pose, isn't it? Where he stood up.
You see him from underneath. It's like and he's looking down. And he's
got the great bow.
Got his great bow there, and he's a very good character. And we see this little exchange between the dwarves and Bard.
Yeah,
it's quite good. And then he takes them into Lake Town.
Into Lake Town, and we meet what is Alfred.
Well, first of all, Lake Town is really well done.
Yes, Lake Town is done very well. It's sort of it's a town in the middle of the lake, which is what it should be, Lake Town. But sort of like the aesthetic.
Observation of the century there, Jamie.
Yeah, damn right. The aesthetic of it is very well done.
A lot of people hoping for some scenery. There's a lot of suggestions that there might be some Lake Town scenery.
A plastic kit for Lake Town, which would be amazing to do. I mean, that's why I'd like a Lake Town board. I think that you could really do a really cool set of scenarios.
Anybody want to make us a Lake Town board? We'll happily accept and advertise you.
Lots of water effects for you, I think.
Yeah. I'm not doing it.
No, I hate water effects. I've used it once and it just went terribly. Going on from that, where are we up to?
So we're in Lake Town, and he's smuggling them in the barrels. He's got the fish on top, and we meet Alfred.
Yep.
And I think he's really well done, actually.
Yeah, he's sort of like the Grima of Lake Town. So he's not evil. He's just self-serving. That he's all about sort of keeping his life comfortable, and he's obviously got something in for Bard as well, because Bard's this champion of the people, and and
he's related to Girion, and they're quite keen to get that across.
And if Bard was to become essentially the king of Lake Town, then Alfred's got no place. So Alfred's very self-serving in that he wants to keep Bard down and his life comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's a very well done character. You do immediately think, because you see him
the big monobrow, and that you won't bring fish in. Well, you've got to have empty barrels. Tip them overboard. People are starving. Yeah, well, that's not what the paper says.
I'm looking forward to seeing some people bring the model of him, and I'm very, very interested to see who goes cheesy. Who do you reckon's going to do it? I reckon people are going to do it.
People will do it. Actually,
I know who's going to do it.
Go on, Charles.
Charles will do it.
I don't think Ed will.
Do you not?
No, I don't think Ed. It doesn't. He's a very weak character. Not Ed. Alfred.
It's not a weak character.
No, it's not weak at all. Alfred, and I don't think he fits into the forces that Ed usually brings. Because for Ed, he wants every point available for big heroes, get in there, fight. Whereas Alfred's sort of like a very support hero.
Put him with Bomber, and all of a sudden you've got what? How many points?
60 points. 65 points.
65 points to regenerate.
For regenerating light, yeah. But I think that works better. Put them next to Legolas or Bard, and they become a very potent combo. Put them into an all-hero force where they're all mounted. These characters aren't, and they still get left behind and are easy pickings, as it were.
Yeah.
I mean, I was thinking of I'm thinking, how can I take down
We should
beasts?
We should do an Alfred Tactica. In fact, it's you know, instead of taking over our movie review with the cheesiness. He's a well done character.
Yeah.
We'll talk about Alfred.
We'll get back to him.
We'll do a Lake Town bit at some point
Yeah.
when we do our army.
Yeah.
But Lake Town is very well done. There's some interesting scenes there where you know they get sneaked in, come up through the toilet, don't they? And,
yes. Yeah.
But then again, there's another bit which is a little bit clumsy, which is they go to steal weapons from the armory.
Yes. Yeah.
So these dwarves, they said, you know, we need some weapons before we go. They go to steal weapons from the armory.
Well, firstly, Bard gives them a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
Part of French, but
size knives to thing,
like this,
anchors and
this is a hammer that we use. We call it a skull basher or something. It's like we need iron, not these sort of ploughman's tools.
Yeah. So they decide to sneak off, and in the meantime, I'd say what's really well done is Bard when he remembers the prophecy.
Yes, yeah. When you're hearing about the kings of old will come to reclaim
the lake of the king of the silver. What is it? King of the Silver Fountain. Lake of Carven Stone. I don't know. I can't remember, but it's really well done.
Lake of Carven Stone. Yeah,
exactly. It's something like that.
Yeah.
Lord of the Silver Fountain, the King of Carven Stone, the King under the mountain will come into his own.
Yeah.
Woo! Brownie points.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool thing.
I'm pleased with myself.
We go see the tapestry. We find out he finds, this is Thorin. This must be the Thorin, and he remembers that all will burn because Smaug's going to come and do it again.
So obviously it's in his interest for Thorin not to get into the mountain. And
it might be a miserable life in Lake Town, but it's a life. Whereas if Thorin goes to the mountain, he's going to bring death and destruction. And
it's kind of at this point that then you get kind of the journey that you've been following all the way through, the people that you've been supporting, and you want to sort of get somewhere. Suddenly there's another side to it, which is which you feel just as much sort of affinity to almost.
And immediately as well.
Immediately, like, well, hang on a minute, is this really a good idea? Just for some treasure or this home, other people are gonna. And then the movie does play on that a little bit. He goes back, he tries to to see Thorin, and probably persuade him. They've already done one. They've gone to the armory, and this is a point that we didn't mention. Keely at this point, Keely is very ill. And he's ill because he got hit with an arrow. Now, if you got hit with an arrow and the wound went bad, because that could happen, and it can fester. That would be great. But what did he get hit by? And you were particularly
I was going to mention this when we did it, but I thought we better just move on. But he got hit by what was called a Morgul arrow. Now, Morgul is obviously linked to Minas Morgul, and Morgul is the weapons that the Ringwraiths have, and in particular the Witch King when he stabs Frodo, and that's sort of the connection we're making, that he's got this Morgul arrow which has killed him. Well, will kill him.
Yeah, because poison his blood and all this kind of thing. But septicemia poisons your blood. You know what I mean? Gangrene's no good for anybody.
We could easily just have had, he's been hit by a poisoned arrow, and that poison's going to, rip through. And Aphilias can still cure this, but I just think calling it a Morgul arrow is purely just to link it back to what happened with Frodo.
Yeah, which didn't work.
You
don't need to do it.
No, it wasn't needed. It just frustrated me. But that could be because we are fans of Tolkien's work, and this doesn't really fit into his universe.
Seemed unnecessary to me. You got hit. You get hit with an arrow. You're more likely.
Especially when he snaps off immediately as he drops into the barrel. You can just imagine that his wounds. He will die from his wounds.
But this is what happened hundreds of years ago. Most people didn't necessarily die from the killing blow there and then. They died from the wounds after and the disease and. You could do that, and that could have been done very effectively. So anyway, then Keely,
he goes on this thieving expedition with them. Thorin just decides, you've been shot with an arrow. You carry all the weapons down the stairs for me, please. Keely goes, okay, I can do it. Takes one step, falls, weapons noise, and all the guards rush in, and captured immediately.
Yeah, which isn't great. But they get captured, and they get captured to be taken to the Master of Lake Town.
Which is our nation's very own Stephen Fry.
Stephen Fry, National Institution, that is. And this is really interesting, because, it's trying to show some complexity in the politics of the Master of Lake Town and how he's working, because it's not in his interest for, and it also shows greed.
Yes, yeah. It shows more of his greed than his.
Yeah, but it's also with the bard, and
Yeah,
they bring up the Girion thing, and you couldn't even.
Yeah.
Your ancestors
couldn't even kill a dragon.
Yeah, they couldn't even kill the dragon with only 3 shots or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, it's to bring that in a little bit. And Thorin, obviously, he declares himself
as king under the mountain.
King under the mountain, and ends up effectively being supported by the Master of Lake Town.
He gets given all these weapons.
He gets given, even though they've just been robbing. You know, Bard comes in like, whoa, 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 what are you doing? You know,
recites the prophecy to them, and then you get this discussion between.
You have no right to enter that mountain.
I have the only right.
I have the only right. That's awesome. That's good. That's cool.
We've got this sort of standoff between Bard and Master, with Thorin in between. And Master saying, you know, oh, your grandfather Girion couldn't even shoot down the beast with the wind lance. You know, he shot him 3 times and missed each one. Bard's adamant that it's, you know, he dislodged the shell. Oh, sorry, dislodged the scale, and 1 more shot would have killed him. But obviously he dies before that happens.
Indeedy. So they get packed off by the Master. Bard doesn't win that argument.
No. Bard gets put in prison later on.
He does. He does. They take him out, don't they?
Yes, yeah.
They take him out, put him in prison, and the dwarves are effectively sent off to all this huzzah to Erebor,
Yeah.
and they get given loads of weapons and clothes and stuff. And then there is another really sort of contentious point where they decide.
Now, not all the dwarves go to Erebor. You know, Bofa is still unconscious, he's asleep under
Because he's
the
been
table,
drinking.
which I expect is going to be another extended cut scene that we'll see. I reckon they'd have done that. Which, just on its own, seems very strange that, you know, they'd all be drinking together and they wouldn't go, oh, we're going to Erebor, where's Bofa, by the way?
Yeah.
Bofa's late for this and he misses the boat. Thorin pushes back Keely and says, you know, you can't come to the mountain with me, you're too ill, you'll slow us down. Which, in those circumstances, yes, makes logistical sense, but for the book, it makes no sense because, you know, Feely and Keely are his nephews and...
There's nephews, they're heirs.
Well, Keely's the heir, isn't he?
Keely's the heir, yeah.
Feely is the younger brother,
Yeah.
brother, so he's the heir after Keely. Feely decides to stay with Keely, and Owen goes, well, I'm the doctor of our group, so, you know, it's my care should be with Keely, so I'm staying. So then we've got 4 dwarves, haven't gone to Erebor, and they're left in Lake Town.
Which is a really interesting decision. I don't understand it.
No, I mean, the other thing I can sort of see in the reason why they've done it is that it gives us another vested interest in the safety of Lake Town, because we want these characters to survive, because Boffa's sort of the most, like, you know, it's James Nesbitt.
That's a fair point. Everybody likes James Nesbitt.
Yeah, we've got a vested interest in Lake Town being safe, and also potentially to convince the Lake Towners to go to war in the Battle of 5 Armies. Is perhaps their sort of thing.
It could be.
Yeah.
Perhaps. We'll have to see. We'll make our full judgment. It did just seem very odd at the time, didn't it? It was very kind of like...
Other things that happened in Lake Town that are worth noticing is that Bard got a wind lance arrow, which is a great big dwarven ballista. It's not a bow and arrow that shoots the dragon, which, again, logistically makes much, much more sense than a single arrow killing a dragon rather than a bolt thrower doing it.
And it's an invented thing from the movie's point of view. Obviously, in the books, it's
Bard with his black arrow manages to shoot it.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how they actually do that in the movie. But I think it's set up for it to be the wind lance, isn't it? It's not going to be the bow.
No. Oh, I'd be very surprised. They've got 1 wind lance that's left standing inside Lake Town.
Yeah.
And
he's
got the last arrow, and he's told his son to go store the arrow safely.
Yeah.
Because he knows Smaug's going to come.
Smaug's going to come. He knows it's going to happen. Yeah. So the dwarves go on to Erebor. And there's a little bit of friction at this point. You know, Balin in particular is the one who brings it up.
Because Thorin's starting to get this sort of, you know, this madness.
Yeah, the sickness that his father had and his grandfather had, fallen off brain. He's starting to take over. The closer he gets to the mountain,
the more it seems to be, growing. That he's got this just burning desire. He'll just risk everyone and everything to get into that mountain and get the Arkenstone and call the armies to get Smaug out.
Yeah, so we start to see a little bit of friction between the company there as well. Even more friction than them splitting off.
Yep.
And then we go into what is one of my favourite scenes in both movies, on the same kind of level that the Riddles in the Dark Passages was in the first one.
Of course that's the first one. Yeah.
In the first one, which is when Bilbo goes to find the Arkenstone.
And we run into Smaug for the very, very first time. First time we see him in his whole grandeur.
I think that this is a great scene.
Cumberbatch does a great voice. His voice fits very nicely. It's 2 minutes of the video.
What time is it?
4 o'clock. Cumberbatch, his voice fits really nicely into Smaug, and we get that sort of that rumbling when he speaks.
And what he does is he gives off control.
That worm tongue effect.
That I am in control. I'm manipulative. I'm charming. Yeah. And this dragon is. I mean, let's talk about the look of the dragon first.
Yeah.
So, I think it's a really good scene even before we've seen the dragon, with Bilbo going around looking for the Arkenstone.
Yeah,
and that moment.
Some very funny moments as well. That where he's like, "Oh, this one is. Oh, no, this one is." The only advice he's given is the Arkenstone's a great white gem. You'll know when you see it. And, he's like, he walks out and it is literally just miles of heaps of gold
and gems.
Loads
of white gems as well. He's picking them up, throwing them away.
Like, this one? No.
The thing that Martin Freeman's got, which is really good, his timing is very good with everything. So, and it's one of the things I think that the movie doesn't have enough of, really.
Yeah,
it's enough of him.
Yeah.
The Hobbit. It's called The Hobbit.
Yeah.
And you want to see more of him.
Yeah.
Because he is playing that role superbly.
It's
my favourite.
I've been watching the extended editions of the part 1 of An Unexpected Journey, and Sri McKellen's saying, Martin is sort of one of the best actors he's ever had to work with.
Really?
And it's a completely new style of acting to him, and he wants to work with Martin and sort of learn Martin's skills, because
this is someone who's been acting for centuries.
Sir McKellen and Saruman's name, Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
Both Shakespearean actors and are taught and have learnt to act in a very certain way, whereas Martin has come through a different generation of acting schools, and Martin is an amazing actor. In Sherlock, it's John Watson.
You've been watching that lately. I've seen your Facebook statuses.
I cried at Cumberbatch's speech last night. I was like, "Oh Jesus Christ, Cumberbatch!
You soft."
Yeah.
Softy.
Yeah. If you had that investment in them as well, and you saw what he said.
I know. Yeah, I'm not really. Anyway, this isn't about Sherlock.
No.
This is about Smaug. Now it was a great scene, and it reminded me in terms of the interaction between the two characters.
Yeah.
Because Smaug is again, considering it's a CGI character. Just like Gollum.
Amazingly. It's motion capture.
Yeah, we're still doing all that, yeah.
It's all on Cumberbatch's face, and in the sort of making ofs, you see him writhing around on the table as if he was writhing through gold. So it's all done to capture him sort of in his arm positions.
Yeah, there was lots of controversy when it was discovered that the dragon
had 4 limbs.
Has it gone from being a wyvern to a dragon, or a dragon to a wyvern?
It's gone from being a dragon to a wyvern.
Yeah, so now he's got...
So he originally had 6 limbs, 4 legs and 2 wings, and now he's got 4 limbs, 2 of which are sort of these bipedal arms and wings.
What did you think when you first saw the dragon in terms of how it looked?
I think he fits. He looks... the face is amazing.
It's amazing.
He looks like a real worm when he's...
When he moves, yeah. Sinister and snake-like, and there's lots of connotations there, Yeah. He's, I think it's done really, really well. Yeah. When we first meet him, that is. Yeah. That scene is incredible. The way he talks, like you said, the worm tongue, that he's manipulative and charming. The way that he's talking to Bill...
so regal as well. He is a dragon to be feared. You can imagine him laying waste to towns.
Yeah.
and just destroying the dwarves.
He seems very evil, you know, like charming,
a slumbering evil.
Completely sinister. At any moment he could end Bilbo's life, but he isn't. He's drawing as much from this meeting as he possibly can. He's enjoying it because he's evil. I then think the movie makes a series of errors from such an incredible scene.
Yeah. Well,
what happens next?
Well, Bilbo obviously finds the Arkenstone, but leaves it to get out with his life. We get this very cool scene with Thorin showing his sickness and madness again, where he's like, "Where's the Arkenstone?" The dragons come in, says Bilbo, you just got to get back out of the mountain. He's like, "No, you're going back in and getting the Arkenstone." And then the other dwarfs turn up and they all decide to run off. Well, the dragon turns up and they decide, actually, you know what, we better get out of here.
Yeah. I felt that it was a shit, because there's a moment when Smaug says to Bilbo, "I was going to keep you alive, if only for you to see Thorin."
For you to take the Arkenstone. I'd almost let you take it just to see him crumble. Basically.
Which I think would have been better.
Yeah.
Like, that it was almost on that line that he's kind of, you know, he remains in control. Yeah. I then think he loses his control, because he loses control because at that moment he's like, but in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kill you, and I'm going to kill you all, and it becomes this sequence of scenes, of clumsy scenes.
I've heard people say that they really enjoyed this part of the film because they, saw the sort of dwarves in action again. But in the books, obviously, dwarves don't have any sort of chance against this dragon. It will kill them.
Yeah.
Straight up, just destroy them. But in the film, we see what is the clumsiest destroyer of cities, fire and death ever.
He becomes a villain that doesn't do anything. Yeah. He basically crashes around the inside of Erebor, not doing much, being outsmarted. This is the Smaug, and he's being outsmarted and led into a trap by these dwarves. Yeah. And it just doesn't. It removes all power from that character. He stops being this malevolent, the threat, and he becomes just a big monster that is just a big monster.
Just charging around,
smashing into things, being
wrapped up in chains, having rocks dropped on his head, water thrown on him, these little pots of powder thrown on him that just go bang, and he's like, oh, whatever.
Yeah, you lose his power because he stops being in control. He stops being in control, and I can understand why, they're trying to get this kind of action scene.
Then we get this this chase culminates in these bellows being switched on, this gold is melted, and it's sent on this pathway down to this great big dwarf statue, and
a Thror, isn't it?
I assume it's Thror. It's one of the dwarf kings, isn't it? It must be Thror. Smaug comes into this hall with them, and we get this very cool bit where this banner falls on Bilbo, and he's like, "You're here, Battle Rider. I'm going to kill you and kill you all." They break down this statue, and we see this great big golden cast of Thror, and everyone, including the audience. I mean, when I saw it later on in the day, in a full room, like the entire audience is just like, that is sort of amazing to see. And then it bubbles and explodes.
And then there's this just awful CGI.
Awful, terrible CGI of this gold flopping around, and then Smaug's covered in it, and Smaug is in a lake of gold essentially.
And then unfortunately, this theme of destroying the menace of Smaug persists. Yeah. So he's been clambering around, trying to kill them, been led into a trap.
Failing miserably.
He's failed. He's not killed anybody. He's not caught them.
He's not even singed them really. Besides Thorin's coat.
He's not done anything really. He's saying that he wants to kill them, and he's not managing it. And then he becomes a churlish character who says, "Well, do you know what? I can't kill you. So what I'm going to do is
burn your friends.
I'm going to burn your friends. Yeah, those Lake Towners must have helped you. Therefore, I'm going to go to Lake Town. I'm going to burn them. Just you wait and see." And it's almost like kind of pantomime kind of villain, all of a sudden, like, I'm just going to do this because I can. And you lose him. We lose Smaug. He stops being a menacing, malevolent, in control, powerful villain.
And just this dragon is going to wreck the countryside because he can.
For me, even more so than the Keeley Tauriel thing, although I don't think that was great, this was the worst part of the movie, and I think it's the reason why.
That's how it ends as well.
It ends like that. It ends with the cheesy line from Bilbo.
What have we done?
What have we done? That's how the movie ends, and I think that didn't say anything. Just walked out.
She was like, "What? So that's okay. So that is it. Okay."
Now the second time I'm watching it, much better. You know, loved it, really enjoyed the movie, but could identify all the bits that we've spoken about.
I mean, one of my favourite bits, which we've actually talked about, is where Gandalf goes into.
Oh God, we've not even mentioned that. Yeah. So this is the whole other side of it, which has been expanded from the appendices. I agree. Yeah.
I really enjoyed this bit. So we go and we see Gandalf, and Radagast. Gandalf says to Radagast, go tell Galadriel I'm going in here. He knows he's going to need help, basically. Radagast says, "Oh, it's a trap." He's like, "Oh, it's definitely a trap."
Yeah.
Whips out Glamdring.
It is undoubtedly a trap.
Yeah. But Radagast, just please, whatever you do, don't forget to tell Galadriel. Goes in there and is chanting his incantations and revealing like the true nature
Which is
of
quite cool.
Bolg. And then ultimately
You got Azog, haven't you, in the pits, and I think some of his orcs are sort of saying, he's going to discover us, and he's kind of like, let him discover us.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
And we see Azog come out and he smacks Gandalf across the face with his mace. This is something that I picked up on it in Unexpected Journey, is that Azog is this huge 7-foot orc, and he smashes everyone in the head with his mace. He did it to Thorin when he did it with at the end of Unexpected Journey, and no one even gets cut by it. Like, it must be a rubber mace. It's something that frustrates me.
If I hit you with a mace, you'd die.
Yeah, I'd have...
Especially in the head.
Yeah.
You'd die.
So yeah, Gandalf gets knocked over.
Punch somebody wrong and they can die.
Yeah. I mean, obviously dwarves and wizards.
Yes,
are a little bit different.
And it's fantasy, it isn't real.
But it is just something that annoys me, that you see this sort of wicked bladed mace smack people and nothing even happens. But Gandalf gets knocked over, drops his Glamdring.
He does a little bit of he does a bit of blinding light and transfix. And
what I always thought was he does this sort of like air push where it's sort of blast, but it's not as effective. So I imagine it as being like compel, where he's like, get back, and then does this sort of bang on the floor. He's then legging it out of Dol Guldur because he knows what's there.
Yeah.
And he gets captured by the Necromancer.
A key point here is, and it also shows why I think they wanted to do the Bolg and Azog changeover, is they want Azog to be the leader of these armies of Dol Guldur. They want him to continue to be this main dude. I don't think they needed to do that. I think you then could have been introduced to this Bolg character,
who is, so powerful he can knock Gandalf aside and.
Yeah, and you can sort of justify it with that fight, you know what I mean?
So then Gandalf is versus the Necromancer. We get this very cool scene where the Necromancer is just darkness and he's enveloping Gandalf, and Gandalf uses sort of this bubble effect of light, and you see this huge magic battle that is really visually very cool to watch. And
that was really cool.
Unfortunately for Gandalf, he does lose this wizard battle. He gets thrown again by all evil wizards, and
I'll tell you what, doing the Necromancer must have been a really, really hard design process.
Yeah.
Because he is essentially
spirit.
He's essentially nothing. And probably the same kind of problems that they had with doing the Eye, which worked in the end.
Yeah.
The main villain again is effectively incorporeal, isn't he?
Yeah.
He
doesn't have physical form. He's just the presence of evil.
And I think they do that well with him being, there's this kind of sort of shadowy form, but the darkness, that he is the darkness. I like that.
Yeah.
He is the darkness. And then they make an absolutely fantastic decision, design-wise, that ties in between the two movies. With the eyes, where you effectively get the flaming eye, so you get this flame, the figure flames up, it effectively almost envelops the shadow, and then it kind of goes through like mirror on mirror on mirror on mirror on mirror sort of kind of thing.
What you see is you see sort of the armour of Sauron
the
walking towards you, and you get this sort of, imagine the eyes like flashing forwards each sort of, it happens about
very effective
4
special
or 5 times. And I mean, I didn't see this at IMAX, but a couple of my friends did, and they said they were like pinned in their seats in this huge film, just like seeing the figure of Sauron like flashing over their face, and it is very sort of scary.
I wanted to turn around to you at that point and go, that was cool.
Yeah,
that was really, really well done.
And obviously, Gandalf's got a different staff that breaks, and we're going to see him hopefully get his new staff.
Yeah, a lot of people commented on the first movie, isn't he carrying a different,
Yeah.
the guys who notice these things.
Yeah, it's not sort of wrapped around the crystal as much at the top, is it?
That's right. That's right. So his staff gets broken, and then he is kind of like imprisoned in like this little.
Well, he's in a gibbet, isn't he?
Yeah, he's in a gibbet, which is this is Gandalf.
I was half expecting him to catch a moth. Like,
the eagles come in, and that's the end. That's it. The end of the movie. It's just.
But yeah, on the whole, the movie was very good. A couple of bits that didn't really need to be in there, like Tauriel's.
Yeah, if we did like a real breakdown, we both really enjoyed it the second time we watched it. We disappointed the first time, probably because we went in there a little bit too critical and we weren't able to identify the bits that we didn't like to the bits that we did like. The second time we went, we were able to identify that. Yeah. So we were able to enjoy the bits that we did like. Yeah. We'd like to see more Beorn,
yeah.
Sorry, but we'll probably see that at another point. We weren't happy with the Tauriel
Keeley.
Or the Morgul in Keely's leg, or the split between the dwarves.
Yes, when they go to Erebor, the clumsiness of Smaug and sort of the ending was pretty awful.
The ending was pretty poor. Yeah. But apart from that, we enjoyed the movie and are very much looking forward to the next one.
We've seen it the second time, out of 10.
The first time, this is interesting, what would you give it out of 10?
Did I say 5 or 6?
I think you said 5.
I think I said 5. Because if you think about it out of 10, with 10 being sort of your blockbuster, amazing, I will love this film forever, and 1 being, your utter garbage.
Notebook.
Yeah.
Failure to launch or some other awful chick flick like that.
5 is your sort of your average film that you enjoy, but you're not too fussed.
Yeah, yeah.
Unfortunately, the first time I saw it, I put it as a 5, and it was an average film. It was good, but it wouldn't be sort of Lord of the Rings is sort of like 7 to 10 for me.
And second time?
Second time, it probably increases itself to 7. Like, I do actually enjoy this film. Not as great as some of the films I've seen, but it is definitely up there.
Yeah, I'd watch it again
as
well. I was probably in the same mind as you. 5 the first time.
Which was really sort of...
We were almost disappointed at our own opinion of it.
Yeah, we disappointed ourselves because we heard these critics saying, 5 out of 5, must see, better than the first. And we're like, well, we loved the first, so the second one was going to be incredible. But I actually still do prefer the first film to the second film.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Mainly because of that ending.
It's the Smaug.
Smaug being so good and then suddenly, very suddenly, not being very good.
Yeah.
It was not great. So... that's been our review. We've not got any notes with us.
I was fully expecting this to be sort of like a 20-minute video, but we've gone on for, what is it, 52 now?
So we hope that you got plenty of painting done.
Yeah.
During this video guide. Lots of people actually saying on the latest Q&A that they like some of the longer videos.
Yeah.
Because it gives them a chance to paint a bit more.
Yeah,
so we can't do them all the time because obviously they take longer. This has taken forever. We've got 2 videos done today.
2 videos. 2
important ones.
Yeah. So. We should get able to do a few more.
What did you think about the movie, guys?
Yep.
Do you agree with us? Do you disagree?
Post below what you think of Smaug and what you think the miniature's going to be like. Make sure you comment, share and subscribe. And get involved, guys.
Support your Hobbit hobby.
And happy strategy battle gaming.